Mike Craven, Dave Campbell's Texas football, joins us on 365 Sports. And, of course, there's always 2 to 5 stories in college football that happen during the show that we try to bring your way, including the Texas State statement on Jayden De Laura, who's no longer a part of that university. And Mike joins us on 365 Sports. Mike, I know you had the statement you released. You saw that. Is this a school that said, no, it's okay, you come play here, and gave GJ Kinne that approval and changed their mind?
I don't know if it exactly went that way. He's been at Washington State. He's been at Arizona. I don't know, and this probably varies school to school, how much the athletic director, the university president, and the admin sign off on each and every single commitment or transfer that come in there. So I don't know if the admin, if the leaders above GJ Kinne kind of understood the situation, but once, it leaked out there and everything got talked about in terms of his, allegation of sexual harassment from when he was a minor, I think that kind of took over the conversation, especially online and within that fan base, and it kind of, stormed out of there. And today the release was made.
So how did this get to the point where they even considered bringing him in, considering TJ Finley was coming back until this news?
Yeah, I think this is the new reality of the transfer portal, right? TJ Finley plays, at Auburn, doesn't play all that well, isn't the starter anymore, transfers to Texas State and has this huge year. He was pretty non-committal about if he was going to come back or not during those bowl practices. He wouldn't say for sure yes or no. He was definitely kind of looking at things behind the scenes and seeing, what his options are, which is perfectly his right, and I think something that athletes should do. But on the other side, that means the coaches need to start kicking the tires on who the quarterback's going to be if it's not going to be TJ Finley and what the backup plan is. And I think they got so far down the road with De Laura, they decided to take the commitment. I think they like his upside and what he could do as a dual threat. He could run the ball in a way that TJ Finley can't, and that's something that GJ Kinne and Mac Leftwich like in their offense. And so I think they saw it as a slight upgrade. Since they had gone so far down the road with him, they were going to take him as a commitment. If that meant losing TJ Finley, it meant losing TJ Finley. A week later, they don't have either, so it looks like a very bad decision.
Yeah, Mike, so I guess part of the question is what do they do now? But I guess first of all is any insight or understanding into, I guess, the reaction so far to this news from the staff? Because I'd imagine, you think things are going one way, and then obviously there's a bit of a curveball here, and now you also are in this situation where you do still need a quarterback, obviously. So any insight on kind of how the coaching staff has reacted to the De Laura withdrawal, and what do they do from here, I guess?
I think they're frustrated, but they're as much frustrated with themselves. This is a young coaching staff, GJ Kinne just had his first year as an FBS coach. He's had 2 years of a head coach, at the college level. I think just turned 35. Mac Leftwich, the offensive coordinator, not yet even 30. The assistant coach that kind of vouched for De Laura and brought him in just took the offensive coordinator job at San Jose State. So that probably played a little bit of factor too, kind of the guy who kind of was the gap there, or the point of connection, who could stand up for the kid on the table and say, hey, he's not what they're saying. He's no longer there. So I think that played a part in it as well. But yeah, I think it's one of those lessons learned type deals, maybe, for a young coaching staff who, still trying to figure out all the ins and outs of how this stuff works. And today's climate, you're just not going to get away with that kind of thing.
Mike, do you feel like this could be a wart between the relationship between Texas State administration and GJ Kinne?
Yeah, I guess it could, depending on, behind the scenes, how it was taken, if there's any pushback or whatever. But I don't think so. I think it's one blip on the radar. Again, it was a young coach making, a poor decision. But I don't think it was a horrible decision or something. Like De Laura's going to go be on a college roster somewhere. He's going to play football somewhere. He's been playing football, on the college level for the last few years when everybody's known this was out. And so I think it's kind of one of those deals that it depends on the university and the fan base, and the one at Texas State was vocal enough about their displeasure, and it led us to this decision.
So, Mike, how do they make it through spring ball with the quarterbacks on the roster?
Yeah, they got a couple of young guys. PJ Hatter, redshirt freshman that a lot of the guys that I know in the recruiting industry really liked and thought was underrated. So they're gonna, get a lot of reps for the young guys that are there, but they're absolutely going to be in the market for a quarterback in the spring transfer portal window. No doubt about that.
Mike, what kind of buzz is there in San Marcos at this point after the season that Kinne and crew had? I feel like, kind of said it's a little bit of a blip on the radar. They're still expected to be pretty good. And obviously the trajectory is moving upward for Kinne and staff, but I don't recall really talking a whole lot of Texas State football over the years necessarily, and heard a lot more about them these last few months,
Yeah, I mean, they're coming off their best season ever in the history of being an FBS program, which isn't long. I think it's like 11 or 12 seasons, but still, they won 8 games. They won their first bowl game, and the first time they've ever gone to a bowl game. A lot of the attendance was really up. I want to say the attendance was up 20% over last year, so a lot of excitement there. I mean, Kinne, Leftwich, they have a really exciting style of play. Obviously, they went into Baylor and beat Baylor to start the season, and that really kind of ignited them there. And so what was interesting to me about this, and it kind of reminded me of TCU hiring Kendall Briles after the national championship run, is, every coach I know, and that's a decent amount of them, always talk about not wanting distractions and to keep the outside noise outside and to not do anything that brings a light into what you're doing there. And, Sonny Dykes would build up all that goodwill. You go 12-0, you're in the championship game, and then you lose by as much as you lose, and then you hire an offensive coordinator with a last name that's not all that accepted well in Fort Worth, and it kind of kills all that momentum. And now the talking points are about things that aren't football and aren't good stuff. And the same kind of thing kind of happened here, right? Where Texas State could have rode this wave, they could have brought their quarterback back and a lot of the pieces back, and the spring would have been about how do you get past 8 wins? Can you compete for a Sun Belt championship? All those kind of good talking points. And instead, it's going to be about this decision and the quarterback room and what the expectations are and the pressure. He put a big light on the program and on himself in a way that it didn't feel necessary. So I would consider this kind of like an unforced error.
Mike, another question from me. Today, the ACC released the entire schedule, and in late September, SMU, a part of the ACC, is going to host Florida State, who, of course, is not happy that SMU is a part of the ACC. But what a moment, what a weekend that could be for the Mustangs.
Yeah, absolutely wild, right? To think about SMU hosting Florida State in a conference game. And, I was born in 1985, and my uncles are big college football fans. I had an uncle that ran track. My dad played football at Texas. And so I kind of grew up, grandfather was on the staff there at UC. And so I grew up hearing about how great SMU was, but I didn't get to see any of it. By the time I was, of age to be able to follow football, SMU wasn't the SMU that they talked about all the time. So I've never seen it, right? Like I've never seen SMU at this level playing against these kind of teams and those kind of helmets and being considered what they're about to jump back into. It's ironic that the thing that got them the death penalty and got them out of that conversation, paying players, is the thing that's getting them back into these conversations, like having the money to do all this stuff. And so it'll be a lot of fun. I mean, for what I do, it's great, right? Anytime another program kind of steps into a larger light, that's good. That's good for what we do at Dave Campbell. So excited to see what SMU does. Rhett Lashley's got it rolling, but they were 0-3 against Power 5 teams last year. And so it is a real big step up. Going to have to see if they can compete mostly in the trenches.
You guys heard it from Mike Craven. SMU had a 40-year-long plan to escape the death penalty by changing the whole rule structure, and they just did it with tentacles and influence all that time.
Laying in wait.
Yeah, absolutely. Laying in wait. Mike, so with SMU, like in the ACC and the potential that it could fall apart, though, do you feel like there's any nervousness there, or that they feel like there'll always be some form of an ACC, just maybe not the one that they joined?
Yeah, I think they went knowing it may not look exactly like it does right now in 5 or 10 years, but the seat at that table is better than the seat at the table that they just left, right? I mean, like the ACC last year, the AAC, that's going to confuse me forever. The AAC, not very good, really. You take away Houston, you take away Cincinnati, some of those teams, like they just did not have the star power last year. You want to be, with Boston College and Louisville and Clemson and some of those programs if you can, North Carolina. That's better than, East Carolina, Tulsa, Tulane. And so it's all about the grouping that you're with, the perception of that conference. And if you win with the 12-team playoff, if you win the ACC, no matter what the iteration is, if you win that conference, you're going to get into the playoff. That's not always true at the G5 level, right? And so I think they had to do it. I think it was a smart move by them, but it's probably not going to be, the third best conference in America, right? It's probably going to be, the fourth after everything settles and Florida State gets what they want.
Mike, did you hear what he said, Paul, that if you win the ACC, you're going to get into the college football playoff?
Well, now you will.
Oh, and I know. I'm just that you just got to be patient.
Yeah, way back in December of 2023, that was an impossibility, apparently.
Yeah. Mike,
we were so young and naive then.
Yep. Great stuff with what you do. Appreciate your time. Dave Campbell's Texas Football, the magazine, the site, texasfootball.com, covers the hell out of high school football, but college football, but also the high school football, too, with us on 365 Sports. So that's Mike.